How's it going, you guys? This is Anna Santoro from another edition of the Board Riders Review. And today I'm here with Cher and Steve Pendarvis from Pendoflex Surfboards. Super stoked and privileged to be here right now with both of them in their art studio. Steve right here, the shaper, he's going to tell us a little bit about where he got started and the idea of Pendoflex. And how did you start shaping? When was your first board?
I was just a little kid, you know, and I made my little Pipo boards. And, you know, I grew up here in Point Loma Ocean Beach, and, you know, I couldn't afford to buy a surfboard, so I just made them. And we used to go to this place called Ridout Plastics, and over here to Kettenberg Marine to get a resin, you know, $2 a gallon. The blanks were like 12 bucks or something like that. And getting the fiberglass was like, you know, 35 cents a yard, you know, so I could make a surfboard for like 15 bucks. You know, and I was ruling, so it was all good. So that's kind of where that part kind of started. And, you know, I'm 12 years old or so, and then I don't know. I met Stanley Plaskunas somewhere along the line there, and John Riddle. I mean, so I could throw names out.
Stevie Liss,
but it's just Stevie Liss, you know, who's, you know, we're young kids going surfing. What can I say? But we made our own toys. What can I, you know? That was part of the fun of it. You know, I've always been a tinkerer making stuff like that. So, anyway, the main thought here is what is a Pendoflex, and that all became to pass with the Greeno shell, 6970 somewhere in there, when Greeno made his shells. And Stanley Plaskunas was making some shells with Ben Ferris and Will Crane and John Riddle and some others, and Bunker Spreckles and stuff like that. They're all there. They were like 2 or 3 years older than me, so I was the young kid. Anyway, so I was like, you know, wide-eyed kid, go, whoa, what's this, you know? And so anyway, what we were trying to do was make a stand-up surfboard that was like a Greeno shell, those flexible spoons that you could stand up on. So Stanley came up with the idea, I believe it was Stanley, came up with the idea of backfilling the foam, the shell with some foam so that the surfer had something even to stand up on. But those things twisted and flexed, you could hardly stand up on them. And I don't know, it just went on for years and years after that. It was rad, you know, we just like, you know, high school, Point Loma High School, I graduated in '73. You know, UCSD, all that kind of stuff. Things were getting thicker there, and that's when the Innermost Limits of Pure Fun came out. And God, we just were front row with Skip Fry.
So Steve,
God,
so much fun,
right?
You know?
So what year did you first actually produce the first Pendoflex original?
Oh God! Well, it started out as Wibulators, and that would be early '70s.
Awesome.
Mid '70s. Still Wibulators, I would say, but I had the Pendo logo and stuff, and then on into like the early '80s, it was still kind of that way, and then somewhere around '82, '84, when I met you and stuff, that's when I started doing stuff different. First, the flex tails were, they would twist off the tails, and somewhere around like '84, '85, I realized that I'm making these turns on boards, and it's still single fins, okay? And so, like, I'm making these turns and I'm twisting, and I'm making sure it's bending and everything, but I realized I was, like, twisting the frickin' energy away. So I closed the tail up, I locked the tail up so it wouldn't twist as much, but the board would still bend. Oh my God, what an absolute insane difference. So there's sort of your start of the Pendoflex thing. And so, and it's gone through many iterations. It's constantly evoluting, or you know, evoluting's a word, I guess. But you know, and so here I am now, and we still backfill the decks. I cut the boards down, they flex, they bend, I backfill them with foam up to this day, so you have something flat to stand on, and they're just amazing. They feel like a Fiberflex skateboard on water. The boards I make are like, they're like making 2 surfboards, so I have to make them A to Z, and that's kind of why I do what I do.
It's just got so much great energy in here with all the color. Like, seriously, I mean, people like kind of get stuck on their white boards for a while, but like if you look around, they obviously have a lot of love and like so much color goes into the boards, and I really feel like that's a part of your logo and part of your brand.
On the point of the color, tell my customers, I go, you know, come up with a color flow or some kind of idea that you want for your board, because you know what? You know, it just makes the board look better longer, and you can have your own little flavor if you like Kelly Green or whatever, you know, it's really neat.
Thanks so much, Steve, for telling us about your surfboards. And right now I wanted to touch base with his other half, Cher, which is a surfer, artist, writer, and wanted to hear about her latest, surfing since 1964, which is super exciting. Definitely before I was born. Can't wait to learn from you. But her latest article that just came out is in Surfer's Journal 2011, January right now, which is kind of exciting because...
Anyway, we want to congratulate Steve and Debbie Pesman and all the good folks up at Surfer's Journal on their 20th anniversary issue. Thank you, Steve and Debbie, and Scott Hewlett, and Jeff Devine, Ross Garrett, Jeff Gerard, and everybody else that's on staff for this beautiful, beautiful issue.
Can you tell us a little bit about the article that you wrote this year?
Yes,
this month?
I'm very blessed to write an article about our very longtime friend Steve Liss, who really wanted to tell his story about the surfboard designs that he's developed over the years since the 60s, a little bit about his life as well. And he's known for inventing the fish down here at Azure Vista. So I just wanted to just open up and just show this opening spread here. So I'm just very, very blessed to help develop this article with Stevie, and I've also been blessed to ride a lot of his boards over the years, and we're just a big fan of his designs, and he and his family are just wonderful, soulful people. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so excited. I can't wait to read the article.
Anyway.
So you're also mentioning to me about kind of the collaboration that you guys do with both of you on the surfboards and things like that. Like at the dinner table on some surfboard fins.
Oh yeah, you know, well there's fins, and there's also, mostly it's the paint jobs, you know.
It's very personal, and he can put colors together that, you know, a lot of artists may not think would look good together, but Steve can make those look good together. He comes with a completely fresh approach without having it turn into mud. You know, where I have a little bit more traditional art education and background, so, you know, and I'll set up my complementary colors, my secondary whatever colors, you know, for the designs that I paint. You know, Steve just pulls the stops out,
over my head.
pulls the stops, and creates beautiful, fresh-looking designs on his board. This is another example of Steve's painting. He does more like the abstracts.
Modulated color.
Modulated color. I love this little greenie. Beautiful wood fins. Handmade wood fins by Steve.
You know? And I have a tendency to kind of make racier, more stand-up fishes versus your traditional wider nose, you know, flat surfing fishes. These things are actually really good surfboards.
Yeah, they look really fast. I mean, pretty much
you can whack lips and do stuff like on them. It's just
whack
like
that lip.
Whack, you know.
What we all want to do, right? I have no artistic ability, so just sitting in here and seeing all the color and seeing all the art, I really get a feel for what you guys are all about, and I'm really stoked to be able to be here with you and just kind of learn about that, because I can't do any of those kinds of things, but it's pretty exciting. So
here, let me grab a board right here. This is one that I let Lorenzo ride the other day, and it's Cher painted most 90% of this.
No, the whole one on that one.
I taped it off.
He taped it off for me.
Cher painted all of it, and then it was an art. Let me spin it around for the camera.
Art project.
Oh, excuse me a second.
Whoa, here we go.
But this is what's this called, a striper?
This is a striper bass. And this particular fish was actually imported a number of years ago, I was told, by a freediver fisherman friend of ours. I'd seen them when I was on some of my swims down toward the end of Point Loma in the summer. And he said, he saw the picture, you know, that I posted on the website, and he said, where did you get the idea to paint that fish? And I said, well, I saw one swimming. And he said, boy, you have a really good memory. And I said, well, us artists can be pretty observant. I don't know. I just really appreciate seeing the fish and other animals and everything that we swim with, you know, and surf with out there. So I was inspired, and so I started looking through our California fish book, you know, to find, you know, okay, what fish was that? You know, to get a little better reference for painting it.
It's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, so it's a big striper bass.
So we like come up with these, you know, conjure up these like plans of attack, and I mean, I got a pile of them back here. I could show you others, but this is just one that was here.
This board right here is just a perfect example about what Steve's board is all about, because you have a lot of color, you have a great shape that's kind of not like what you would imagine. So I highly recommend going to pendo.com, Pendo.com, to check out Steve's gorgeous, amazing designs. And on that website, there's a gallery that you can click on. It kind of shows a little bit about some of the different designs that he's done, but pretty much any color and shape or fin that you dream of, he's willing and able to make. So check out their website, Pendo.com, and thank you so much for having us here, Board Riders Review. Oh, he's pulling out one more board to show us. Okay.
This is actually a blue trevally.
Oh, it's actually a trevally,
in the Ulua family.
It's a little smaller one, yeah.
And when Rel would take me diving over on the west side, we'd look for, you know, not exactly this type of fish, but, you know, fish from that family.
She's got a little hibiscus on the nose. This is just like a 7-foot egg fish.
This is like the Ulua,
looks fun.
The first Ulua.
Yeah, just a fun, like, bitchin' board. Anyway,
it's like a swallowtail.
Awesome. So wait, Steve's going to tell us about his things and what shops he's in and where to check you guys out if you're over the website.
So, I have boards in Jax, Osaka, in Japan, Mollusk, New York, Venice, and San Francisco, PB Surf Shop here in San Diego, and the Patagonia store up in Cardiff, California has a 4 or 5, I believe, EPS boards that are just absolutely gorgeous. Go grab one because they're insane. And I got some demos up there. If you want to ever go up to Patagonia or PB Surf Shop, I actually have demos in New York. I don't have demos up in San Francisco, I don't think. But anyway, but yeah, if you want to go ride a Pendoflex at any one of those shops, there are basically boards there to ride, to demo, to get the feel of the Fiberflex skateboard on water under your feet. So enjoy all. It's good to talk to you.
And we also want to mention Surf Indian. You know, there are also a couple of Pendoflexes at Surf Indian. And at PB Surf Shop, there are demos that you can try. And we want to thank the fine shops that are supporting Steve's boards. And much aloha and mahalo to them.
Very good. Yeah, the Surf Indian boards, they're like gloss polish high-end boards, so they're not like just go buy a board, and they're like works of art there. But
they're all works of art.
Yeah, well, they all, anyway.
Have to say, I'm proud of him.
Well, thank you, Steve and Cher Pendarvis. This is Anna Santoro from the Board Riders Review. Stoked to be here. What a fun evening to check all this out, and go check them out. We'll see you soon.
Adios.
Later.
Bye, you guys.
Califlex it. Aloha.
The Duke. He's on my wall at all times. And that's my inspiration. So thank you, everybody, for having us.
And Jesus
in your most
Christ.
holy name. Amen.